Welcome to the Mixed Reception Podcast. I'm your host, Barrett, and today, huge guest, huge movie. We got Matt Cole. What is up?
Hello. I am so glad to be here. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. So you might know Matt. Gosh, he's in a sketch group called Brightside. He is a co-host of the Sexperts podcast. He's in Monocle, Ear Prof. Did I miss anything else? You're the producer of How Embarrassing.
That's right. Don't forget that one. That's the one your girlfriend hosts.
Yes. They've been on my podcast many times. You're also a notable Nicolas Cage fan.
Hell yeah. Yeah, and I'm a little sad that we're not talking about a Nicolas Cage movie, but we are talking about one of my other top 10 favorite movies, so that's okay then.
So today we're doing The Fifth Element, directed by Luc Besson.
Luc Besson!
He did what? Leon the Professional, which I've seen once and I really liked.
I like that one.
And then what else did he do? He did that one movie that's supposedly a spiritual successor to this. Larian and the City of the 5,000 Planets or some shit like that.
Yeah, and I haven't seen that one. I have it downloaded, and I skimmed through some scenes. That's how I watch movies now.
Wait, really?
Yeah, I'm I don't have time for this movie, so I skimmed through it, and I watched some of the scenes, and they looked really cool, but they're just so bland, and the dialogue is stilted. I'm just I don't think, and the actors suck. I'm I'll watch it eventually.
Yeah, so The Fifth Element. Wow, this is really one of your favorites of all time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a top 10 movie. I mean, there were some nowadays. I like movies so much that I like just seeing. I just like seeing. I'll watch it. I'll be I love that movie. I'll put it on the shelf. I want something new. But when I was a teenager, and this is when I first saw it, when I was a teenager, I would watch movies just over and over and over again. And yeah, I've seen this movie maybe 20 times at least. I used to put it on in the background when I'm doing homework and all this stuff. I know all the lines, all the gestures, all this stuff. I love this movie.
How did you hear about it? Was it just I saw previews for this and it looked interesting, or?
I think I did. Yeah, I think I saw previews for it. I can't remember the very first time, but I think I must have rented it. It may have been. I used to actually work at Blockbuster. It was the shittiest job I've ever had. I mean,
really? I worked at a movie theater.
Did you really?
Yeah, I loved it.
Did you? Yeah, well, I see. The thing is, I don't know what kind of complaints you got, but because Blockbuster had late fees, nobody fucking likes to be told they're wrong. And it's you return a video, and it's oh, well, it's late. It's fuck you, it's late. And I'm well, you have to pay us $20 before you rent another movie. They're no, man, I came here. I'm going to rent this movie. I'm not going to pay you $20 extra for it. So I just got shit on all the time. I mean, it's not the worst job in the world. I mean, there are some worse, but it was the worst job that I had.
Yeah, I mean, it's better than I don't know, prostitution or something.
I don't know. At least you get fucked in the good way with that one. Not slavery. Slavery's all bad.
It's not even a job. That's not a job.
I'm fucking canceled on your podcast. No, working at Blockbuster, I think they gave you they were such the fucking misers. They would give you a free movie a month or something. I'm I should just be able to rent whatever I want. And yeah, not a lot of people at that time were renting The Fifth Element because it had been out for 10 years or something like that by the time I worked there. But yeah, I love sci-fi. That's another reason why it piqued my interest is it just looked cool. I really like sci-fi with a really cool look. And I also like sci-fi that has really interesting concepts. This one is more of just kind of a classic, just hero tale, fairy tale sort of thing. There's not a lot of whole high concept stuff, but that's okay. It looks cool.
Yeah, before we really get into it, let's just to go back to when I worked at the movie theater. My favorite thing was when you worked in the box office, and granted, the movie times are right behind you, and then people will come up and be like, "What time does the movie start?" What? It's right behind me.
Yeah, they ask the dumbest questions.
They ask the dumbest fucking questions. Yeah. But
have you seen, by the way, this is neither here nor there. Have you seen the new Perry Mason reboot? This is way off topic.
Wow, yeah, no, I haven't.
Okay, it's good, and they have a question, and this reminds me of this, where he's chit chatting with the guy in the morgue, the pathologist or something, and the pathologist is just asking all these weird questions, and Perry Mason just goes, "Are you lonely or something?" And that's what I think these fucking dumb questions. They're just they're dumb, right? They're dumb people, but they can't come up with an interesting question to start a conversation. So they're hey, what time's the movie start? It's fuck you, it's right there. If you want to start a conversation, ask me how I am.
So this might be a little inappropriate. We're getting way off topic here.
Okay.
We had this girl that worked with us named Kizzy. And
Kizzy? What the fuck
Kizzy.
does that stand for?
That was just her name, Kizzy.
Okay.
And it was just like, so, you know.
Sounds like a name from Fifth Element, by the way.
Right? So her mom was kind of, I'm trying to be nice here, a little slow. We'll just say that.
Yeah.
And I don't even know what this lady's day job was. I don't know what she did, but she would just like during the middle of the day, just like come to see free movies.
Well, probably a prostitute then.
Well, if you saw this lady, you would not pay to have sex with her. But she would just like come up to the box office and she would just be like, let me get one for Alvin and the Chipmunks. I'm Kizzy's mama. So yeah, I always like every time I'll scroll through like Netflix and see like Alvin and the Chipmunks, I always like chuckle to myself. Like I said, we're getting way Kizzy mama. We're getting way off topic. So okay, I have an interesting history with this movie because up until last night, I had never sat down and actually watched it from start to finish.
Okay, yeah.
Like when I was a kid, so what, this came out in 97, so like 98, 99, it was probably making the rounds on HBO. And this was like the quintessential HBO movie. It was like constantly on. And I would always watch this movie in like bits and pieces. I have never actually, I never actually watched it all the way through.
I have a lot of movies like that. And by the way, shameless plug, I have a podcast about movies called Performance Enhancing Films with Alfred Crane. And one of the reasons why I produce it as well, and I'm a co-host, one of the reasons I like it is we have guests and they bring the movies that they want to talk about to us. And some of them are classics that I shamefully, and I have to be as honest as possible because sometimes I lie about this shit, where I'm like, oh yeah, I've seen that movie. But no, fucker, you didn't see it. You saw bits and pieces of it like over the years. Like when Harry Met Sally, it's not my favorite movie, but I finally sat down and watched it all because Sandy Carden, she's a good friend of ours at Push Comedy Theater, she brought it, and it's one of her actual favorite movies. So to like be fair and stuff, and to actually have a good conversation about it, I finally sat down and watched all of it. Everybody knows that I'll have what she's haven't seen, and I've seen that. I've actually seen like the ending over and over and over and over again, like the very end. But I never sat down like the very beginning. I don't think I've ever seen, or I thought it was from a different movie. But I know exactly what you're talking about, and I would say like, just if you're listening to this and you've never seen all the Fifth Element, sit down, have a movie night. It's actually, I don't know if we were talking about this or somebody else, but like it's actually a really good date movie, especially if like your date is into sci-fi or a little nerdy. I find that like whenever this is you get a sneak peek into my like dating MO. If I would like bring like a girl over, then I might be like, hey, you want to watch the Fifth Element? And that was like an easy like, she'll love me for it. Like if she's seen it before, she's like, fuck yeah, I love the Fifth Element, I'm gonna fuck you. Or if she's never seen it before, she's like, man, you got good taste in movies, I'm gonna fuck you. But either way, it would work out for me.
I don't like the movie, but I'll still fuck you.
Well, that's the thing, and I have to say, and I'm sorry, you're gonna have to wrangle me in this podcast.
That's fine.
I usually host things and guide things myself, but I will have to say, mixed reception. I don't know a fucking person who hates this movie, Barrett. I don't know. I know you have reviews. I'm going to be very interested in hearing a shitty review for this movie because like it's also become a cult classic with everyone. And if anyone hates this movie, they can come to my door and we'll have a sword fight.
Well, that's the thing with this podcast. It's like we have done movies like. You mentioned performance-enhancing films. Like I had Alfred Crane on here. We did Blade Runner. I mean, Blade Runner is a classic. At the time, people were not crazy about it. Yeah, I mean, mixed reception. A mixed reception movie doesn't necessarily have to be it could be a movie that was like not very well regarded at the time.
Well, but even Blade Runner is one of my other favorite movies because I think I share that with Alfred. We love sci-fi. But it's boring as hell. I mean, I will just say that. There's nothing boring about Fifth Element. So it's like, Fifth Element has a little bit more palatability for like a wider audience. Blade Runner, you have to be a diehard sci-fi. You have to like slow burn movies. Sometimes I even can't stand like slow burn. I finally watched The Conversation. And that is like the ultimate slow burn movie. And I got bored. I'm just like, is it worth it? Is it ending fucking worth it? For Blade Runner, I say yeah. But we're not here to talk about Blade Runner.
I was gonna say that's one of your classic. Whenever you're directing somebody in a sketch or something, I love how you're always like, "I'm bored,
yeah. Bobby, I'm bored.
Bobby, I'm bored." Well, let's jump into it. Let's do it time. So, Kevin Thomas, Los Angeles Times. This is a positive review. elaborate, even campy sci-fi extravaganza, which is nearly as hard to follow as last year's Mission Impossible.
Okay, so he's a dumbass. Like, what?
Well, I'm not done yet.
Okay, keep going.
A lot warmer, more fun, and boasts some of the most sophisticated, witty production and costume design you could ever hope to see. I will say, comparing this to Mission Impossible is an odd choice.
Yeah, and saying that it's hard to follow, it's like, I guess he hasn't seen a sci-fi movie before. They're like dumb words that they make up in sci-fi that don't mean anything. You just accept it. It's like they're looking for the unobtainium. What's unobtainium? You don't need to fucking know what unobtainium is. Just know that they're looking for it. It's a MacGuffin. Like, but he's right on all the other counts. So it's not. I won't agree with the confusing part, but he's right. I think that is. Now, I am thinking of why people will like it. It's so campy. Like, and I knew when you talked about wanting me to be on this like podcast, you mentioned Ruby Rod. You could probably turn off the movie right then and there because you're like, this guy is so over the top and campy. I can't stand this shit. Like, this is corny bullshit. I'm turning off. I can see that. But you're also wrong if you think that.
Siskel and Ebert, they both gave it 2 thumbs up. Roger Ebert, Chicago Sun-Times, he gave it a 3 out of 4. He said, one of the great goofy movies, a film so preposterous, I wasn't surprised to discover it was written by a teenage boy. I would not have missed seeing this film, and I recommend it for its richness of imagery. But at 127 minutes, which seems a reasonable length, it plays long. Here's the thing. You say it's not boring, and I agree. I will say it's kind of light on action. There's really only like 2 big action sequences in the movie. So I would have liked action.
That's a good point. And I think personally the way kind of bigger movies, because that was a bigger movie, the way bigger movies are moving is like if you're the Transformers movie, you have to have like, I don't know, like half and half where it's like, yeah, if you have, let's just say for time's sake, like an hour movie, then half of that movie has to be action and half or less has to be dialogue. And yeah, you're right. When thinking back, there weren't like a lot of big time action sequences, but now they have to jam pack them in where it's like almost like a musical, where a musical now is like half dialogue, half like actually singing and stuff like that.
Right.
And like, yeah, this is technically an action adventure movie, action sci-fi, sort of movie. But yeah, I guess that's right. So, but again, you have to be wrong. Like the scenes are interesting and fun in their camp. Yeah, I guess that's true. You are enlightening me. So people who don't like this movie, okay, I'm seeing your side, but you're still wrong. And you come to my house and sword fight me and bring a sword because I don't have a sword, motherfucker. Who has a sword these days?
Gene Siskel, Chicago Tribune, gave it a 3 out of 4. The Fifth Element has enough eye appeal for 2 good movies.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I agree.
Is that all I said?
Well, I got the little blurb off of Rotten Tomatoes.
Now that's a big sticking point. The costumes and stuff. Maybe what is it, Gaultier or the costumes designed by Jean-Paul Gaultier?
I have no idea. I thought
you don't know.
I thought Gaultier was the person who sung "Didn't mean to cut you out. Now you're somebody."
That's Gaultier, but this is I don't know if they're pronounced the same actually, but they sound the same. But yeah, I think I'm terrible at movie trivia, even though I love a movie for a long time. But yeah, the costumes were designed, even the fucking McDonald's costumes, were designed by Jean-Paul Gaultier. So yeah, it looks fantastic. All right, keep going. What else we got?
Todd McCarthy, Variety, a negative review. A largely misfired European attempt to make an American sci-fi spectacular. The Fifth Element consists of a hodgepodge of elements that don't comfortably coalesce. I don't agree.
Yeah, I don't really see that. It's messy. I think that's okay. So here's my counter to that. And in fact, one of the things that I like about this movie, it takes. I guess if you're thinking about the dichotomy between 2001: Space Odyssey and Tarkovsky's Solaris, 2001: Space Odyssey, everything's like pristine. It's kind of like Kubrick. It's like pristine. It's all kind of neat and like this is how the future is. It's like sci-fi, kind of like Star Trek: Next Generation. It all looks sheen and everything's kind of in its place. Tarkovsky was like, no, the future is going to look like, and especially space, is going to look like a fucking bus stop. Like, it's going to look well worn and used and chaotic and that sort of thing. And the scene that makes me think of that is the scene where Lilu is standing on the ledge and she looks down and all the cars are buzzing around, everything's dirty. Bruce Willis's character lives in a fucking, in a refrigerator. It looks lived in and chaotic, and it's supposed to be hodgepodge and messy. It's not that kind of, high sheen 2001 Space Odyssey movies. That guy can go fuck himself.
Well, I think also he probably, maybe the tone just didn't work for him, and I can see any detractors. Yeah. From this movie, I could see like that not working for them.
Yeah. So. Yep.
Another negative one, David Edelstein, Slate Magazine. It may or may not be the worst movie ever made, but it is one of the most unhinged.
Well, see, that's wrong because, you have the movies like The Room, which is like an actual bad movie. This is not one of the worst movies ever. There are like... Everybody can agree, and he doesn't mention it, and it's got high production value, and it looks really fucking cool. He doesn't mention that. He was probably, like, underpaid, and he was like, he had a deadline, he had to put in a review, and he was like, he didn't watch the movie. And this guy can sword fight me. I've heard this guy's name before, and if he's listening, Edelston, you need to sword fight me, bro. And bring a fried chicken sandwich with you, because I'm hungry.
Film critic Mark Kermode, he's like a pretty big British critic.
Okay.
He said that The Fifth Element was one of the most divisive films amongst his readers, and they regard it as both the best and worst summer blockbuster of all time. And he says that he was at the Cannes Film Festival where it premiered, and he said straight up like the audience was really divided on the film. So what I think it is, I think critics really were polarized. Huh. The critics who liked it really liked it, and the critics who hated it just like hated it.
Yeah. No, well, I have to. I guess I'm a big. My perspective has to do, I think, with genre. Like, if you don't like sci-fi, then you can't stand this bullshit. I think. Where you're like, there's too much that doesn't make sense to me, and like one of the earlier reviews where it's like it's confusing. You do have to have the mindset. You have to sit back and be like, this is a world that I'm not privy to, and I can imagine like how these things fit in, or not. I can just be like, whoa, that's kind of weird, and kind of move on. So I guess if you're not a fan of sci-fi, you're not used to that perspective, then you may be like, why am I supposed to like this? Because it's not like it's not like a big movie like Titanic, where like you just sit back, you watch it, and everything kind of makes sense because you knew, even though it's a period piece, you kind of knew how things fit back then in that world. In this world, like Diva Plava Laguna. Wait, no, is her name? I'm bad with names, even though I've watched this movie a million times. The Diva, like. How does she sing like that? Why does she have tentacles? What planet does she come from? But all this stuff, I can see people being like, yeah, it's a little too much for me. I'm just gonna go next. But it's really for creative types and for people who love imaginative films. Yeah, it's gonna be one of your favorite movies. But if you're not into that kind of thing, you just need something to be cut and dry. Yeah, I guess you can be divisive.
So speaking of divisive, so Chris Tucker, which we won't get in too much now. We'll get into that big time in notes. His performance, I think, is. Yeah. I think that's where a lot of people. It loses a lot of people. Time magazine called him like the summer's most outrageous special effect, but then also Total Film singled out Tucker's performance as the low point of the film, and they ranked it number 20 on the 2011 list, 50 performances that ruined movies.
Okay, this is something I can wholly say that. Yeah, this movie probably didn't need that. Although it's one of the elements that one of the elements that I love the most. And again, it's all about perspective. I think a lot of this movie falls into like my own. It's like this movie was almost made for me. So I think you didn't want to go too far into this, but I'll say briefly. I think a big influence on him for this was very obviously Prince. Even down to Gaudier's like the leopard like skin tight suit. That is very Prince. Like his performance was very Prince and Little Richard, and I love that kind of thing. I personally think. A lot of performance, a lot of things get the whole, and this is derogatory, the no homo thing, where it's like, oh, I don't like that. I'm not a gay. I don't like that. It's like, And I'm personally straight, but here's the thing: is I'm okay in my sexuality that I can like that performance and be like, this is fucking cool, man. Like I love the hell, and I've played that up for comedy too, where it's like, I don't know, just being out there and flamboyant. It's fun. It's like freeing and that sort of thing. And I have to say, because a lot of people are homophobic and just fucking idiots, I think they'll be like, I don't like Ruby Rod. He makes my downstairs tingle, and I'm straight, you know. I can see people saying that. Then that's my cynic in me. I can also see people saying like, there's already too much going on. Why do they need this like already over the top colorful character? And and this is far too into this. I will also say that Bruce Willis, and they cast him well, is just a fucking potato in this movie. He's just like a rock. He needs somebody outlandish to kind of balance that sort of pairing. That's why it actually works as well.
I didn't even think about it like that.
Yeah, even not just my own personal kind of preferences, but as a movie, like as a writer and as like a director, it's like if you just have Bruce Willis, he's just a vessel. He's a vessel for he needs to be bland because it's kind of the hero story where the audience puts themselves in Bruce Willis's position, but you need something colorful after that. I will say though, I hate Star Wars: The Phantom Menace, and I think. This pains me to say, I think Ruby Rod is almost like the Jar Jar Binks of this movie.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I'll get more into my thoughts on Ruby Rod in notes, but yeah, it is one of the most bizarre,
yes,
not only performances, like characters I think I've ever seen in a movie.
Yeah.
So what did the cast think of the movie? So Bruce Willis actually, he spoke favorably of the film. He said it was a real fun movie to make. Tucker and Mila Jovovich, like, they said that they like had a blast, like being in the movie. Mila Jovovich said it's like the first really amazing director she worked with. That's the only good director you've worked with, Mila.
Yeah, that's sad. I was rooting for her, and I hate to say I'm not who's not like misogynist or something like that, but who's that guy? Is it P.T. Anderson?
Paul W.S. Anderson.
Oh, Paul W.S. Anderson. Yeah, he ruined her, man. I mean, that's like...
Well, those two are married.
Yeah, it sucks. Like, couldn't she have been in something else? It seemed like she had a lot of talent, and she was just like, nah, I just want to be shacked up with this stupid director. That sucks, man.
It does. Those Resident Evil movies, I haven't seen all of them, but Jesus Christ.
Load of horse shit.
Gary Oldman does not like the movie. He got interviewed in 2014, and they asked him how he felt, if he liked it. He's like, oh no, I can't bear it. And he said, it was me signing up for my supper because Luke had come in and partly financed my film, Nail by Mouth. I've never heard of that movie. But
Nail by Mouth?
That's what I guess Luc Besson helped finance that movie that
I haven't seen it.
I've never seen this movie. I don't know what it
I like Gary Oldman. I would have put money. And out of all my love for Fifth Element, I've never heard their perspective on it, so that's actually very interesting. But I would have put money on Gary Oldman not liking it because he seems kind of like a pretentious guy, where he's like, yeah, it's a little too much, a little corny for me. It was just a paycheck. I mean, not to say like hindsight's always 20/20, but I would have put money that he would have been the one to be like, nah. Now, is Kneel by Mouth, is that the name Kneel or the word like kneel as in like on your knees?
N-I-L.
Oh,
Nil by Mouth. I've never heard of this.
N-I-L. That's
but
probably nil by. Oh,
nil.
You have an accent. I grew up. My parents are from West Virginia, so they would say kneel as well. You gotta take your peels. Those aren't.
You seen that Gary Oldman movie, Kneel by Mouth?
Hey, you seen Fifth Element with Ruby Rod? I hate that guy. I hate him. He gives me an erection.
He's one of them gays.
I don't like him.
Rotten Tomatoes, critics 70%. Audiences 87%.
Okay.
Consensus, visually inventive and gleefully over the top. Luc Besson's The Fifth Element is a fantastic piece of pop sci-fi that never takes itself too seriously. That's a perfect consensus. I agree 100%.
Yeah. Nailed it.
Metacritic 52 and IMDb 7.7. I think people have kind of come around on it. I mean, like we said, it's kind of attained this cult status.
I haven't followed Metacritic in a while. I used to read that pretty well. How is it so low? Do they rank or do they weight certain reviews higher than others?
So I actually like Metacritic better. I think it's a more I think it's a more kind of a better, I guess, grasp on what people really thought, because I think Metacritic kind of averages all the scores. Rotten Tomatoes is a little like it's an aggregator. So like a movie, it's weird too, because like sometimes like a movie can get 2.5 out of 5 or 4 or whatever. That's kind of a review, but it could be counted as positive. So I think Metacritic is more accurate. I think they actually like do the average the scores.
But on this movie, I would say, and it's hard because I love this movie, so I'm very biased. I would say, now, to me personally, I'd be like, hey, 10 out of 10, it should have a 99%. I would say 70% is fair because it is, I guess, now hearing it is kind of divisive, and if you don't like sci-fi, you probably won't like this movie. 52% sounds really, like, way too low. Like, I would even go 60-ish%, but there's something off in Metacritic, at least for this movie. So
I will say, if a movie gets a 70 on Metacritic, that's like universal acclaim. They do things differently. So, I mean... Yeah,
it's not like A, B, C, D, E, so like you just wouldn't get like an F, a really failure rate. This would okay.
And also too, like I would say, this was at the time. I mean, I would think you could argue they've warmed to it. The movie,
yeah.
Box office. This movie had a budget of $90 million.
Ooh,
which is like that's pretty big in '97.
Yeah,
I feel like that'd be like a $200 million movie today.
At least, yeah. So some of the effects. This. Okay, I'm sorry to go here. This is probably a little off topic. This is a good movie that shows practical effects versus digital effects, and it reminds me a lot of what they're doing more recently with Star Wars movies, where they're coming back to practical effects. I guess right after this movie, maybe during the movie, because actually speaking of Star Wars, the whole prequel trilogy came out right after this. Yeah, like in '99, I think, and then early 2000s, and they did they were like screw practical effects.
Green screen the movie.
Yeah, everything's CGI, everything's green screen. I can think of in the beginning the giant. I forgot what they're called. The elders. I forgot the.
Oh, I have their names.
Yeah,
the Mondo Shaw ones.
I probably didn't even know.
I went on Wikipedia and found that. Did you talk about the little like General Grievous looking things? Like,
General Grievous. Yeah. So they were actually practical, and it looks kind of corny, but it reminds me of like some of my favorite '80s movies, like The Labyrinth and that sort of thing, where they have actual puppets, the dog head looking guys. They're actually dog heads. They're not digitally like enhanced or anything like that. And that's what they're doing now in the Star Wars. They're saying like what would look best and more realistic as a practical effect, and what would look best and realistic with like CGI. And they're actually getting like more artistry, like with puppets in there and stuff like that. And so it's funny how they come back to that. I wouldn't be surprised if the fuckers who did the Star Wars movies are like, not the pinnacle, our recipe, our mold is going to be Fifth Element. That movie made it look good. Some of the stuff they couldn't do, like looking over the ledge, like with Lilu and seeing the little cars go by.
I got that in my notes.
That looked pretty good, and that had to be CGI. That couldn't be like puppets and all that, models, I guess.
Also, I was gonna say, also good use of like the models and stuff.
Yeah.
They use that like kind of camera perspective to make it look bigger than really good stuff with like all that. Not a huge hit in the U.S. I mean, it did okay. Yeah. It made $63 million in the U.S., which is okay. This is one of those movies where it's kind of interesting because I feel like nowadays most big like summer blockbusters make the majority of their money overseas. I feel like in like the 80s and 90s, like most of the big movies would make their money in the U.S. And this is the case where it's like, U.S. like 63, worldwide 263. So like, and also this was a French production, I think. So I think it was just one of those that was really big in Europe.
Yeah, that makes sense. It has more of a, I guess I'll put in quotes, a European sort of feel. It doesn't feel like an American blockbuster. When I think American sci-fi blockbuster, I may be missing one, but Jurassic Park has sci-fi to it, I would say, so that's a big one. But I'd say the biggest one is Independence Day. Like that is probably the quintessential American sci-fi blockbuster with action. So it's not that. It's definitely not that. It doesn't have like a Will Smith who's very like American, like I'm gonna beat the shit out of the alien. Welcome to Earth, bitch. And like, there's none of that in there. They try to do that with Bruce Willis, I guess, to give it
some funny lines, one-liners.
Funny lines that are, maybe I'm talking myself into it, but at least he's wearing a European costume.
Oh yeah, like the costumes and everything are so like. Yeah, like you said, it like I don't know, very European. I can't really think of another way to describe it.
Exactly.
All right, well, let's get into notes.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the first note I put is I love the kid. So the beginning. This is what's funny too. Is like I had never seen the very beginning of the movie.
That's one scene I'll say you could skip forward and actually maybe cut from the film. I actually don't like that first scene.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it opens up 1914, and like, yeah, we got Luke Perry, R.I.P.
Oh, that's right. I was trying to think of his name. I kept on thinking of Jason Priestley. That's the other guy from 90210.
Yeah.
He's alive though, right?
I have no idea.
I don't know either.
I don't really keep up with the 90210 cast.
Rest in peace. Luke Perry just died like last year, right?
Yeah. Also, this movie's pretty topical because Ian Holm died recently, which is sad.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
He's the priest in this movie.
Dude, and I would say, man, Gary Oldman, watch out, dude. I'm not saying I'm going to kill you, Gary Oldman, but I think you're next. Wait. No, I got him for a second. I got him confused with the other guy from Harry Potter that died.
Oh, Alan Rickman.
Alan Rickman. So he actually died.
I think Alan Rickman should have been in this movie. I don't know why.
Yeah, I know. Alan Rickman. I don't know. Alan Rickman and Gary Oldman. They're kind of
I'm getting some
British
vibes from them.
Serious British actors. He could play Zorg easily.
Oh, totally.
Maybe better. I don't know, Gary Oldman. You're on notice, you fucker. For hating this movie.
I'll sword fight you, Gary Oldman. Come on.
I'll sword fight you.
But anyway, I love the kid who keeps falling asleep holding the light. They're like, Aziz, lights.
Aziz, yeah. Oh my God. And there's no reason to quote that line ever. I guess if somebody's holding a flashlight for you. Actually, that's happened before. I'd be like, Aziz, light. I don't know.
All right, let me see if I can get this straight, this whole
Okay.
All right.
Let's get this.
Because you said, like, oh, it's not that confusing. I did kind of have to go on Wikipedia.
Some of it just doesn't fucking matter, but yeah, let's try.
All right, so the big aliens, the Mondo Shaw, that sounds like an Indian tribe.
Mondo Shawin,
Oh my God, what if the Redskins renamed their name?
The Washington Mondo Shawin?
That would be awesome.
I would love it.
All right, so basically the aliens arrive in Egypt to collect so basically in the pyramid are these, 4 stones.
Yeah.
They're 4 elements, earth, wind, fire.
Water. We are.
Water,
yes.
So, yeah, there's these stones, and then there's, like, a 5th element that's, like, a person. They're, like, in a sarcophagus.
Yeah.
And so I guess when you put those together, they destroy, I guess, the essence of evil, which is like this big, black, burning ball of fire.
Yeah.
And that comes around every 5,000 years. So when you put these elements together, it destroys that. So I guess the aliens...
It's simple, yeah.
Scoop back down. They scoop to Earth, take it, and they're going to be back when the big ball shows up. I got it. That's the plot. Okay.
You nailed it. Now, and a lot of that is just bullshit. It's like the MacGuffin. It's like the story doesn't even really actually matter, but it is kind of classic, like fairy tale, like good. It's very simple. And again, not to be corny, but it's elemental. It's fundamental. It's good versus evil. It's a quest. You have to find the 5 stones, or you have to find the 4 stones and the fifth super secret element. Well, it was you the entire time, or it's inside you. It's heart or something like that.
It's love.
It's love. Yeah, exactly. It's very elemental and classic. And even actually, my roommate right now is playing the Final Fantasy games, and like people who are fans of anime and of Japanese RPGs and that sort of thing, they will recognize that story instantly and just know that it's like, yeah, it's not really about that. It's more about having fun with the characters, and it's more about the journey, which is very corny, but
it works though.
But you recognize that, and you say, like, I'm just going to sit back and enjoy, like, whatever happens. Because the actual story of good versus evil, you know the good guy's going to win in the end. The evil's going to be vanquished. Everything's going to be fine. So it is kind of like, in that perspective, it is like a popcorn, like, just, sit back, enjoy it, blockbuster kind of movie.
So, yeah, we cut to 3,000 years later, and then so the big, giant black ball of fire shows up, and it starts, like, fucking up ships and stuff. Yeah. It gets bigger and bigger every time they fire on it. I love how the Federation's like, shoot first, ask questions later.
Yeah, that's very American.
Also, this was like a really funny, like, so I guess the fire turns into like a skull, and then like Corbin Dallas wakes up. I thought that was really cheesy.
It was. Yeah, it was very stylized. Yeah.
So we cut to like Corbin Dallas, which is Bruce Willis's character.
What a great name! A very
cool
very good
fucking name, Corbin
Corbin.
Dallas.
Corbin Dallas.
I like his apartment though. It's really cool. I like how like what is it? The oven or the fridge goes down and it's like a shower. Like it's just really.
I think that is very like Asian, like Japanese sort of flavor, where it's like you live in a compartment, you live in a small space, and you're used to it. You're like, yeah, this is all the space I need, man. I live in a big city. This is how it is.
I like you said. I like this like lived in kind of dirty future.
And I will. This is getting to that is when the police or whoever come to the door, and he says, "Negative. I am a meat popsicle."
I wrote that down.
I feel myself quoting that line for some reason. Like if I'm hungover or something, I feel like a meat popsicle for some reason. I find myself quoting that line more than any other, which is weird.
Also, I put this too. He opens up the fridge and he has a box of cereal in his fridge. Okay, like why are you putting cereal in a fridge? that really bothered me. I wrote that down.
I think that's another thing you just have to roll past, Barrett. Just be like, you know what?
This movie sucks.
This movie sucks. He had cereal in the fridge. Who does that?
I like the guy that tries to rob him, and he's like so just inept with like trying to work the weapon.
Oh my god!
I love how he like just takes the weapon from him, and then like he's got like a rack of weapons, and I'm like, how often do people try to rob you?
That is so. This we haven't talked about this. This is so like. Well, you talked about it in some of the other reviews that it's over the top and campy. I like this kind of like highly stylized type of movie where it's a living cartoon. It's a live action cartoon, and Corbin Dallas is like, he is I guess if you're talking about comedy, he's a straight man and in a crazy world. Like, this is just a crazy fucking world all around him. He's an everyman type character. The audience puts themselves in that, and everybody else is over the top. I mean, this is like a dream. Like, Luc Besson, I think he did a really good job. And the acting as well. The actors work with him as well. Even that one character helps set the scene for how crazy the world is. Like, right. The robbers are so inept that they don't even know how to work a fucking gun, and they're shaking their boots. That itself wasn't over the top. I forgot what the guy says. He has a line or something, but yeah, he's I love it's like a over the top like Wile E. Coyote cartoon.
Well, yeah, I also feel like Bruce Willis, his character just feels like a man out of time. Like he just feels like somebody from our era,
right?
You could tell like he just hates all this technology and shit.
Yeah, and that's exactly what the general audience perspective would be like. It's like, what the hell is this? Like, I would hate living this. I would hate living in a box. I would hate being, trapped inside. I would hate having to limit my cigarettes every day. I would hate being robbed every day with these inept. Yeah. All
right, so then we cut to the scene. The Mondo Shawans show up with the stones, and then they get shot down by the Mangalores.
Mangalores, yeah, okay.
Not to be confused with the Mandalorians.
Yeah, it's a lot of these sci-fi words are like, oh, that's kind of like this word, but those are the doghead guys, right?
Yes.
Okay, good.
I like their design. They look really goofy. They feel like something from like a video game. I don't know, but
they do. Yeah,
I like their design.
Yeah, and practical. Like they actually, yeah. I did see. I think I saw on my like DVD from like 2000. I did see that. Yeah, their mouths moved, and kudos to those guys who had to wear the fucking sweaty mask all day.
Oh God, right.
You don't hear them complain about the pandemic.
What if they don't have any face masks? Like that's their mask. Like I was an extra in The Fifth Element, and like I'm just gonna walk around with this lore.
Yeah, like sir, you can't enter 7-Eleven with that dog mask. Okay, American rights.
They pick up a survivor, quote unquote. Basically, all that's left from the wreckage is like, I guess like the hand that was in the sarcophagus.
Yep.
This is a really cool scene because they like take it to the lab and like there's still like living cells and they like basically like recreate the person. Yeah. And then that's where we're introduced to Lilo, played by Mila Jovovich, which I gotta say, this is Mila Jovovich at her peak hotness.
Ooh, yeah. I mean, when I was a teenager, I'm not sure exactly how old, but like when I would rewind the VHS or the DVD and just go back and watch this movie because like, yeah, that was a hot goddamn design and not needed at all. Like if you were actually being bandaged up, like wouldn't you want the bandages all over? Like, yeah, you may look like a mummy, but like it was a tip strap basically. It covered her nipples. Yeah. conveniently, but none of the other. You got to see a lot of side boob and that sort of stuff.
No, you see some nip. Briefly see a nip.
You see some nips?
Yeah, there's a part where she's laying down on the table thing, and you do see her fully naked for like 5 seconds.
All right, I didn't have the special edition, Barrett. Okay, yeah. I didn't have the money back then as a teenager.
It was the George Lucas special edition. Oh, well, we need some nipples.
I need to see some pink. Unless I see pink, it stinks. Okay? Am I remembering? Was the president and like his general also in that room for some reason?
So this is funny. I wrote this down. So the general, who is Leon from Blade Runner.
That's right. Yeah.
I love it. This is one of my favorite lines in the movie. He's like, "Oh, I can take a few pictures." He's like looking at the naked girl, and his mouth is just on the floor. And like, "Oh, I can take a few pictures." Oh, I mean, for the archives. Right?
Yeah.
So anyway, she fucking breaks out, and like, I love when she like breaks through the wall. Like, the wall is made out of like paper mache.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's a practical effect. It probably could have been spruced up a little bit with CGI.
Yeah, I was just like, this is such a cheap set.
This is probably a trivia area, but I think on the ledge is this is some of the trivia I know. So they dyed her hair to shit, like that bright orange. Yeah. So that eventually her hair started falling out, which I mean, yeah, and that must have really fucking sucked. And it was during filming too. On that ledge scene, I think it is one of the classic scenes where you can actually see that it's a wig. Which is fine because it wasn't a close-up shot, luckily. But you can tell the difference between her hair if you actually look for it the next time you watch it. And some of the shots where her hair just looks kind of fake, it's actually fake.
Oh, so yes, she's on the ledge and then she jumps, and it's really a shitty effect when she like falls down. I laughed.
Because it's obviously like she's falling into a green screen.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's so quick and it looks so fakey. So that's an effect that doesn't hold up. But then she lands in Corbin's taxi. And this whole scene is great. I feel like this taxi cab chase is like.
And this is one of the big action scenes.
I think this is like the scene that kind of sold the movie. That's the scene that I saw on like the advertisements and stuff. But I love it. This is like one of my favorite parts of the movies. Like those two police officers, and like they're doing McDonald's drive-through.
Yeah.
And he's like, "I'm too old and hungry to go chasing some hot rod." And he's like, "I'm definitely too thirsty." He like takes the guy's Coke.
It's weird. This is the movie. I guess we haven't said this word is overstuffed. Did it need all this stuff? Did it need McDonald's? Yeah. Did it need McDonald's product placement? Did it need Jean-Paul Gaultier's design costumes? Did it need the dialogue from those two cops? Did it need I think if I remember when their speeder car goes past, they throw up their it makes their thing explode. I don't know.
Well, they're chasing him, and then they run into a McDonald's truck, and then all these fries and burgers. God, imagine being on set that day. Like, hey, we need to order a lot of McDonald's so we could just throw it on this car.
It's like a pizza party on set. Yay, we get McDonald's free today. I don't know.
It's funny. It's kind of interesting. Like, I feel like this movie to me feels like the inverse of Blade Runner, and there's a lot of kind of subtle kind of references. Like the McDonald's thing kind of reminds me of in the Blade Runner, there's that ad for like Pepsi or Coke or whatever. You know what I mean? So
right.
It was kind of like this movie's version of that.
And it makes sense. And I guess in your creativity, and you've been in like sketch shows and all that sort of stuff, everybody's always kind of like the Roman Empire, like taking from each other and saying like, oh, wow, I really like that movie. Wouldn't that be a cool Easter egg to include this in this movie? And yeah, I got to bring it back to Star Wars. Like the scene, what is it in like Star Wars maybe 2 when the flying cars are going that. Somebody had to have seen this scene from The Fifth Element, been like, let's make it look a little bit like that, or that's at least something to grasp onto. And then previously, you're right, like Blade Runner, they also had flying cars, and so they saw like that sort of like flying car sort of thing. Somebody from Fifth Element was like, let's be a little bit like, the Blade Runner movie. Obviously, they cast the guy who was Leon. Was it Leon?
Yeah, Leon.
Leroy? Or
Leon, yeah.
Okay, which is weird because he was Leon the professional. Yeah.
Oh, he was like, I like your name, Leon. Come see in my movie. I did a movie called Leon Professional.
I love Barrett's
Leon.
I love Barrett's French accent via North Carolina.
Oui. Also, too, I don't know if you noticed this. There's a scene where there's this ship that like pulls up to Corbin's apartment, and he's eating sushi. And there's a scene in Blade Runner where Harrison Ford's like, in Chinatown eating.
Yep.
So I don't know. Yeah.
It's the whole sort of sci-fi, like fortune telling, like looking at the future and being like, the future is Asia. You know, there's going to be a lot of Asian influences. If China like takes over the world, which they are set to probably do, then they're probably going to be a lot more that kind of influence of Asia on American culture. That's that whole sort of classic sci-fi, I guess, idea.
I love it when Corbin takes Lilo to the priest, and I love how she's just like watching. Basically, she's like downloading all this information, and she like basically downloads kung fu. I love it.
Oh, so wait, okay, so I'm usually pretty good. No, Matrix was after this one, right? So this one was like 97, 98, and then Matrix was like 98, 99 sort of thing.
So Matrix was 99. This was 97.
Okay, so yeah. Who knows? It's like when there's
this is very Matrixy. Wow, this movie's really.
It is, yeah. Everybody steals from everybody, you know, and somebody from the Matrix is like, yeah, I guarantee you the fucking Wachowskis watched this movie and was like drooling. They're like, I want to make a movie that's that cool.
Yeah, I also love how she's just like eating everything in the apartment. She's like, she just goes in the fridge and takes out this like already like prepared like giant turkey. She's just like, chowing down on everything. I love it.
They do a lot to make her like a dream woman. We're like, okay, she's hot, she's like sexy, but she also can eat like a dude. It's like, okay, I get it. Does she also like sports? Does she also drink?
She does kung fu. That's my kind of woman.
She kicks ass.
So they were introduced to Zorg, played by Gary Oldman. This
classic,
is like that.
Yeah, over the top villain.
Oh my god, yeah, that was a.
chewing the scenery, as they say in the business.
God, his like hairstyle and outfit is so weird, and he's got this like plastic like thing on the side of his head. It's so weird.
Designed by Jean-Paul Gaultier.
The singer-songwriter Gaultier. This is, I think, one of the most unique. I don't think I've ever seen this unless they stole it from somebody else. Like I said, everybody's stealing from everybody. But the most unique villainous scene, I would say, is when he's choking to death. Oh, yeah, that was my next thing, yeah.
Oh, really? And the priest is in there, and it shows the dichotomy between... It's just such a good... I've never seen a scene like that, where he's choking to death. The whole movie could have ended right there if he just let him choke to death. I mean, that's actually, when you think about it, it's like, that's a really cool sort of scene. You always like... I don't know why I think of this. I think of, like, Darth Vader, Obi-Wan Kenobi. People who used to work together or, like, be friends, and now they're on the exact opposite sides. I also think of... Oh, I just thought of this... Oh shoot! It escaped me. Heat. I don't know why I think of Heat, but you always like it when the main villain,
De Niro scene at the table.
Yeah, the main villain and the main good guy meet, and it's like they show the difference in morals. And that was a really cool scene.
Well, also too, I like you kind of get a little bit of insight into why he wants the stones, and basically, I like that he basically throws like the glass on the floor, and he's like, "Look, when the world goes to hell, you're going to need somebody to clean up stuff." And you have like the vacuum, like cleaning up the glass and stuff. And yeah, I just thought it was a neat way to kind of simplify like his motivations and stuff. It was really weird.
Yeah, this is how I think of the world, and then this is how I think of the world. It's great. And you can see it's like they don't have those fucking scenes in the Transformers movies. Like those are the new big kind of like sci-fi blockbusters. There's not a scene that's that like kind of metaphorical. It doesn't. Nowadays they beat you over the head. It's like, I'm the bad guy, I want to take over the world. But no, it's like you see like how their morals play out. Yeah.
Also, I love Zorg's pet, that little thing with the fucking long nose.
Yeah, that must have been practical too. I don't remember exactly. It wasn't a CGI thing, right?
No, it was a practical thing. It was just like on his shoulder and it had this like weird, like long nose.
That reminded me of one of my other favorite movies from childhood was Flight of the Navigator, and he had like a. Did you ever see that one?
No, I've never even heard of it.
I don't know if it. So Pee Wee Herman, I think, did the voice of this like sentient UFO, and it's very 80s. Like they actually have product placement for New Coke in the movie. Yeah, but. I forgot the name. The sentient UFO actually has a menagerie. Like he has a zoo of all the creatures he created, and it's kind of cute. Like they see little puppets and stuff. Anyways,
I love it too when he's choking. He's like pressing all these buttons, and like one of them, like a cactus comes out. Like why?
That is so cool.
You know what's also cool is like that remote control cockroach that they used to spy on the Federation. That was pretty cool.
That's the fucking future, man. They have those now. They're seeing how tiny they can make cameras, and they make them that small now. God damn!
Wow, this movie again ahead of its time. Yeah. So, you know what? You know what? Also, is like kind of weird to me.
Yeah.
Like, so okay, they hire. So Corbin is like this ex like special forces. He won the Medal of Honor,
Of course.
and so the general approaches him to go on like the secret mission. They basically rigged this contest so he can go on that I guess that ship. That's like a hotel, and I guess he needs to get the stones.
Lost in Paradise.
But here's the thing: is the general and the president aware that he already had a previous encounter with Leilu? I don't think they do. I think it's just like coincidental. Like, like he already had this encounter with her, but he's also special forces and we need him. I just thought that was like, whoa, that's kind of weird. It's so like
I would have to watch it
contrived.
again. Yeah, I have no idea. That's a good. I may watch again for that. But again, just turn off your fucking brain, Barrett.
I know. You're right.
Don't do it. Don't look for plot holes. And like, why did they have to have him win this contest? Couldn't they just like sneak him in and give him?
Also, you're the fucking U.S. government. You fucking buy him tickets. I didn't even think of that.
Lost in Paradise.
Oh, also, I like this apartment scene too, because like Lilo shows up at his door, and they're like, "Oh my god, that's my new girlfriend, and she hates the military." And then they like hide him in the fridge and stuff.
Oh, poor Lilo. She puts her in the cold fridge.
Oh, also too, they put the priest in like I guess the bed thing.
They put him in the fridge. I forgot.
They put him in like that bed compartment, but like there's like plastic over the bed.
They almost suffocate him. That's right.
He like almost fucking dies, and they like forget about him. That was like really funny.
Oh man, I can't wait for that. When do we have plastic saran wrap killing machines? I don't know.
Oh, that'd be sweet. Oh, so we get on like I call it a cruise. It feels to me like a cruise. So they get on the cruise, and then oh my god, so we're introduced to Chris Tucker.
Oh my god, I love it. I fucking love it. It's so brilliant. Like now, I'm thinking too of Jim Carrey as the Riddler in Batman Forever. I'm not sure where those mix. I think Batman Forever was before this.
That was 95.
Okay, so that was a couple years before. I think because he has a cane. He has a cane with the microphone at the end of it.
Yeah.
And he has that tight suit. Jim Carrey had the cane with the question mark and the tight suit on. I think they might have been influenced by that as well. Also, Jim Carrey was very over the top, which was a weird choice for the Riddler, but whatever.
Holy shit, I didn't even think about that. They are basically the same character.
Yeah. But I've already said a little bit about Ruby Rhod, like the Prince influence, that whole sort of like ultra feminine, but all the ladies fucking love him.
Oh my god, he's just going down on chicks.
Oh my god, it's like, and that's cool. Like I would want
like that scene where it's like intercut between him like going down on her and like the ship's engine.
And her legs going up and the flight thing up. And it's like it's so choreographed, it's so stylized, but it's like that's fucking cool. As a teenager, and I was like interested in movies and that sort of thing. I was like, I want to make this movie. I'm into sci-fi. I like this sort of like stylized, sort of over the topness. Oh my god! But yeah, Chris Tucker as Ruby Rhod, and I get. All right, what is his Jackie Chan movie?
Rush Hour.
Rush Hour. How does Rush Hour fit in? That 98, 99?
Rush Hour is 98. I haven't actually never seen any of Rush Hour movies.
Because I guess before this one, I know for a fact, like Friday was before this one. I think that's how Chris Tucker got big. And also he was a stand-up, right? Like, I didn't see him. I knew of him as an actor in Friday and other things. And I thought he kind of like playing a tough guy. And seeing him in this movie, I was like, no fucking way. Like, how did he get this role, and how did he agree to that? I would see him as more of a tough guy, like being like, I don't want to play that kind of character sort of thing.
Supposedly on set he did have some like, I don't know about wearing this costume. Like he was kind of like unsure about the character.
I did hear about that, but yeah, do you have any quotes from him? I would like to hear about his perspective. Like,
all I really got was that he was kind of a little bit like he didn't love the costumes and stuff. I think he had a little bit of like the case of the not gays.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think, but he did say overall he did like working on the movie.
Yeah, and I can see like somebody who wasn't like committed to that character and playing it, because like his character itself with the costume, you just see it. It feels like a cartoon, but it feels like it could actually happen. I mean, especially the way like reality TV and like these over the top characters who could say there wouldn't be like, I mean, Flava Flav, like how did that guy become an insanely popular? He himself is a cartoon character.
Oh, that's because people are dumb.
Well, that's right, and that's how it feels. It's sci-fi, but there's some truth in it. There's no reason why there couldn't be a Ruby Rhod character right now in existence who's like this over the top prince, like very feminine, but like still gets the ladies sort of character, who's just a very popular celebrity right now. Sure.
Here's my thing with Ruby Rhod. I'm very conflicted on the character and the performance.
Yeah.
I did laugh a lot watching him because, like, oh my god, like he's such a like the girlish shrieks like ah! and like Corbin.
I love.
What's that one thing? He's like, "Tell me, man. Tell me about it, man." What does he say?
Tell me about it, man. Oh my god! And then he puts the microphone. I love the camera work in this one. He puts the microphone right up to him, and there's that classic like squeal of like dead air. And then Corbin Dallas says one word, and they're like, "Okay, back to the show." I just love that. I wish there was a spinoff of Ruby Rhod. There's probably too much of Ruby Rhod. And again, they need the dichotomy, like over the top talk of Ruby Rhod versus Corbin Dallas, one word, very macho and that sort of thing. I love that dichotomy. I love that.
Well, you could argue you kind of have that in the Lelu Corbin relationship. Like she's kind of just this innocent, like wacky person, and he is like we said, like this kind of sweet macho man. But you got a great point. I don't know. I feel like. I'm so conflicted. Like I did laugh a lot, but like Jesus Christ, like he is such a pointless character.
Yeah, and there does become a point. There does become a point where he becomes the Jar Jar Binks, where he's so over the top and so laughable that like you don't really know. He doesn't have any other motivation besides he wants to be the spotlight. I guess that would be his character.
Well, otherwise, he joins them. I don't like what I could see. Okay, I could see if you had a little bit of him.
Yeah.
But then, like, he's like, oh, wait, like, he's, like, a main character now. Like, he joins them on, like, the mission and stuff.
Now, it could. I haven't thought this out, so bear with me. Come on this journey with me. If you think about this, again, it's very based on, like, fairy tales, even, like, medieval sort of stuff, but also, like, Japanese, like, role-playing games. If everybody fits into an archetype, then I guess, like, Corbin Dallas would be, like, the knight. He's, like, he has the morals and blah, blah, blah. Lilu would be maybe, like, the sorcerer. She's kind of the mysterious sort of character that comes out of nowhere. And Ruby Rhod would be I forgot the name for it, but the bard, I guess. So he's like the entertainer, and he happens to be like the lighter, like comedic, that sort of character. Yeah, I guess everybody has their role and has a kind of like stereotype in here. I don't know.
All right, so my next thing. So this scene with Zorg, I guess like the ball of fire talks to Zorg.
Yeah, what was that all about?
It's just like black shit that's like oozing down his face. Does anyone have an answer to this? Like, what is that stuff?
Yeah, I actually forget about that scene, but it was intense, and it kind of this was so stylized and so for like tone and feeling. It didn't make a lick of sense. It just said like it raised the stakes. I have a feeling like it may not have even been in the original script or something. They were just like, yeah, he needs to get on the ball, like do this thing. It's like in Star Wars, the Emperor versus Darth Vader. The Emperor is putting the pressure on Darth Vader, be like, you gotta do this thing for me. You have to. Why haven't you done this yet? You need to do it. You're running out of time. So it was a stakes sort of scene, but it didn't make a lick of sense.
No, I actually liked the scene, but I just like I was like laughing. I was like, what the fuck is that black shit? Like, is it like hair dye? I don't know.
I assumed it was just like a weird goo, like a psychic goo that the ball sent him, but it could have been hair dye. It could have been.
Yeah, I thought as a kid, I was like, oh, like is he like an alien and he's just like bleeding? I don't know. Oh, whatever. Okay, so that happens, and then this is probably one of the best scenes of the movie: the opera scene intercut with like,
oh my god,
fighting the Mangalores. That's so great.
Yeah, that was, and I don't know if. Yeah, that was such an inventive scene. What I was thinking of, because I did this on, and sorry to mention another podcast again, but on Performance Enhancing Films, Matt Holman, one of our good friends, he brought to the show Baby Driver. And I thought about Edgar Wright as a director. He's very into, like, editing with sound, with, like, being very kinetic. And just the concept of having a fight scene choreographed to a live performance of like a song, like that's very Edgar Wright. Like I bet he jerks off to that still to this day.
I bet he probably got the idea for that whole movie because of Fifth Element.
Yeah, it's so cool, and they're both. I don't even know the action scene itself. May have here's how it may have played out. It may have been boring on its own, and they're like, we need to spice this up. Let's actually splice it with this like very kinetic sort of the Diva Plava Laguna sort of thing. But yeah, I would say the other thing. I don't know if you know that this is some trivia that I do know. I'm not big on trivia, but the Diva Plava Laguna, that vocal can't be done by an actual human. They mixed it. I'm not a musical person either. I'm not a trivia guy. I'm not a musical guy. But like the way the octaves work, the human voice actually can't perform that on its own. So they spliced in like another voice with it. But it seems like it could work. Again, there's like truth in this sort of sci-fi thing where it's like, well, I guess she's an alien, so she could have this extra like vocal cord that does this. But it also seems like maybe a human could actually do that performance. I think it's pretty brilliant.
Yeah, great scene, and then like and then I like the whole opera shootout and like the everybody escaping the ship and stuff, and that's like one of the few action scenes. It's pretty good. It's like
And I think for today's standards, it probably would look maybe. I'm thinking of myself as like, even though they did like really fast editing and stuff like that, it's gotten even faster now. Again, I give the example of Transformers. I guess it's the big movie to shit on. But it's too kinetic where you can't tell what's actually going on. It's so fast and it moves. But in this, you can tell what's happening, and it looks fast, but probably they were like doing action scenes like slow punches and that sort of thing. And yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, like what? You can save a scene in editing. The original Star Wars, that whole fucking movie was saved in editing.
Yeah, absolutely. Fucking Star Wars. I hate the prequels. I know you talked. Wait, you talked to Matt Holman about which Star Wars did you talk?
The Last Jedi. That was a 2-parter.
Jesus Christ.
I know. We talked for 2 hours about that movie.
This is gonna be a 2-parter.
It might be. Anyway, moving on. All right. So this kind of pissed me off. I don't like how Zord goes out in the movie.
I forgot how it goes.
So basically, he steals, I guess, the case that he thinks has the stones from Leilu. And then he's in his ship, and he's like, "Oh shit, they're not in here." And then he goes back, and then the bomb just goes off, and he blows up.
Yeah. Okay.
I wanted like that final. Because here's the thing: him and like Corbin, they never meet face to face at all.
No shit. I don't think I've ever thought about that. Yeah, it is kind of a. So he goes back to the ship to get the actual stones, and he ends just getting blown up.
The stones are in that opera lady. Like they're in her body. I don't know how that worked. She ate them.
So
she stuck them up her ass.
What? Does she have an ass? She's an alien, so does she have an ass? Does she poop? Does she have multiple assholes? Is she like a cow? She has multiple stomachs and like also 3 assholes?
I think we need a prequel explaining the pooping habits of this universe.
I would love this. It's one of those things where you love a movie and then you're so excited and there becomes a sequel and they're like, oh, they didn't really need a sequel to that. But then Terminator 2. Why could they have a Fifth Element Part 2? I think they could have. They could have a spin-off. Like I said, I would have watched a movie about Ruby Rhod. I would have watched a movie about a prequel about the Diva Plava Laguna. I would have watched. I would love this shit. But if the Valerian was a spiritual sequel, I don't want to see that shit. That looks like bullshit.
All right, so basically they land on in Egypt, and Leilu watches all these images of war and stuff, which is kind of like. I feel like that's a trope in like a lot of movies. Like, a supercomputer that's telling me everything about mankind. Mankind's bad. War.
That was corny. That was
kind of corny, but I do kind of like it. Like the ending where it's like almost doesn't want to help, and then Bruce Willis is like, "Hey, like there's very nice things worth saving," and then like they kiss. Yeah. It's a little cheesy. And
it's cheesy, it's corny, but again, if you think about it, it's the fundamental story. It's like, the knight gets the princess, love conquers all sort of thing. It's needed in this movie, and there's so much other stuff, like you said, when I said it's overstuffed, it didn't really need it, but you're like, yeah, it does need it, because it gussies up the very simple story. It's like, yeah, it's a story about, love conquers all, good versus evil, but there's all this other stuff. You come to see the movie for Ruby Rhod. Basically. And I love, oh my god, this is the one that I do quote. One of my good friends, Andrea, we shared a love of this movie, and I don't know why we quote it, but it's just like, I guess maybe because people when we went to parties, they would like smoke and they'd be like, do you have a lighter? We're like, Corbin, I ain't got no fire. I love that. And that scene's not necessary. Like, why couldn't they just have a liner like, here you go, there's a lighter? But I think a lot of a good storytelling and good like movies is about putting small obstacles and seeing how the characters react. So there's that classic scene of like they have like, what is it, like one match left?
Yeah.
And they're all like, and oh, and then it almost goes down, oh, and then boom, you know. And it didn't need that, but it's like a small sort of scene that shows it raises the stakes and sees this is life or death. This is like either you save the universe or the universe is done, and it all relies on one single match.
I do like how he can't get his pillar to work. He's like, man, come here, it won't work, man. Man, why don't I get the program, man?
I ain't got no fire. Yeah. I love that.
So they save the day, and then the very end of the movie is pretty funny. It's like, I guess they're in that like chamber, both of them together.
Yeah, wait, why are they in the chamber? I've heard.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess for their injuries, but they're not really hurt.
Oh yeah.
And then the president shows up, and then like the guy looks in the chamber, and they're fucking. He's like, oh, they're not ready yet. Give them like 50 more seconds. I like how you like looked at them fucking, and you're like, oh, that guy's about to come.
Yeah.
50 more seconds.
And was it the general who wanted to take pictures in the beginning, and then he spied on them at the end? Is that how it worked, or?
No, it was like one of those weird scientist guys who like looked at.
Oh,
it was so funny because like they're like inside fucking, and it's like a freeze frame, and then the movie ends, and it's like this weird song. I don't know. Yeah.
The ending again. It's corny. It's weird, and it's like, it wasn't. I don't think it was the best of endings. I don't even hardly remember that part. But oh well.
Trivia.
Trivia time. I've been dropping some I can't wait. I hope you have some stuff that I've never known. That's honestly why I'm here. Is like I usually love a movie, but I don't like looking too far into it. But if I happen upon something, bring it on me. I
think I have some interesting stuff. So This one, we were kind of I was kind of talking like, hey, like this is kind of the inverse of Blade Runner, and that's exactly what it was. Like Luc Besson, he demanded that most of the action shots in the movie take place in broad daylight, as he was tired of the dark spaceship corridors and dimly lit planets common in sci-fi movies, and wanted a brighter, cheerfully crazy look as opposed to a gloomy, realistic one. I think that's one of the things that's most refreshing about this movie is like, we were kind of used to that like kind of dark, drab.
Yeah.
Theater, and this was like, I mean, like I said, it is the inverse of Blade Runner, and I love it.
Yeah, and I mentioned that earlier, Solaris versus 2001. Yeah, I am not surprised, and I actually love that. Like, if you're really into movies or you're really into, like, creative and how people, like, make stuff, a lot of times it's, like, it's a reaction. It's like, I've seen these... 5 I brought up Transformers 5 times. I've seen these 5 Transformers movies. I want to fucking make a movie where you can tell what kind of action is going on. I hate the fact that the Transformers are so intricate looking. I want to make things that are like just like cubes. I want to make aliens that look like just 5 cubes stuck together, and that's going to be my aliens that fight together. Yeah, I love that. So it's like, Blade Runner was too dark, too gritty. I want to make something. I got to say, I think in the Marvel Cinematic Universe with DC, they try to do like the whole dark and gritty thing, and they did it too much. Now they got to swing back to, I think Aquaman may have been like a little bit more kind of bright and like colorful and like less gritty. They got to swing back the other way because people are like, I've had enough of that shit.
Right.
Show me something new.
So Luc Besson, I don't know if you knew this, he wrote the original screenplay when he was in high school. He was 16 when he came up with this.
I did know that. I forgot when you brought it up earlier. I was like, it seems like a fucking 16-year-old's wet dream. Like, if I was 16 and I wrote a sci-fi movie, it was so, again, Elemental is so simple, but I think that's pretty cool. And he used his talent, though, and his inspiration, and bringing on other, like, really great, actors like Bruce Willis, designers like Jean-Paul Gaultier, and all this stuff so that his 16-year-old dream came true, but they made a passion project into something that was palatable for a wider audience. So thank you, 16-year-old Luke.
Also, too, I thought this was kind of touching. So he made the main character a taxi driver because his father worked as a taxi driver for like a second job, and basically the money he made from being a taxi driver, that was used to support Luke going to art school. So he made that. Yeah, he made the main character a taxi driver to kind of honor his father. And I also found this out, like, there is a taxi driver in almost all of his movies.
No shit.
That's really sweet.
I didn't know that. I love that. I love those kind of small touches. Like I said, is like I think in order to be a successful movie, even if it's not like a documentary or an actual like historical fiction or whatever, there has to be some truth in what you create, or else it feels like it doesn't feel real.
Right.
And so there's tiny little things that people, directors like put in of themselves, the more it feels kind of real. I did not know that. I love that fact though, because it seemed kind of weird that Bruce Willis went from this like decorated military guy to a taxi driver.
I thought so too, because I don't know, like I'm assuming he's retired, so he's probably
Right.
making like he probably has a pension, and
So why wouldn't he
get a good military, like a good government job? I don't know why he's a taxi driver, but whatever.
Usually like ex-military go into like security or something like that, and so that kind of almost actually rang untrue, but I actually like that. Yeah, that's cool.
Well, you needed to have him be like a kind of schlub, a taxi driver. You
Right.
needed to have him be relatable.
You also needed Lilu to fall into a taxi, so
Right. Oh, so the language, the divine language spoken by Lilu, that was invented by Luc Besson.
oh,
And basically, so I don't know if you knew this, but Luc Besson and Mila Jovovich were actually an item. I think they like met during this movie, and they were actually married briefly. Now she's married to Paul W.S. Anderson.
because she has a thing for directors.
Ah, right?
I don't know if I knew that or not. Yeah, and the language was made up by Luc Besson and her, or
So it was like made up. So him and like he actually co-wrote it with another guy, and she kind of helped refine the language.
Okay.
But they would write letters to each other in that language.
that's
Do you think they like talk dirty to each other in that language?
yeah. She would say spank me and be like Babu Dico.
Multi-pass.
Multi-pass. Oh, I love that. He knows. This is how much I love the movie, but also how crazy I am. I almost bought a replica multi-pass on Amazon. I think after you invited me to this, I was like, I want to show it to Barrett. And it's like, no, save your fucking money. But you can buy one for like $30. I was like, $30? I don't know.
You should have gotten it.
Multi-pass. She knows it's a multi-pass. We're in love.
Multi-pass.
As we're in love after that.
This one's not surprising. Ruby Road, basically, the sources of inspiration were Prince and Michael Jackson. I think
There you go.
Michael Jackson and Prince were actually considered for the role. I'm going to say no to Michael Jackson because he's crazy.
Yeah, and all the
I
acting
love Prince
stuff.
in this movie, though.
Prince, he.
Wouldn't have been as over the top, but still.
I don't know. Recently, because I love Prince, and every now and then when I go down to like a YouTube rabbit hole, I watch Prince videos. I see like Prince was hilarious. Like he had a good sense of humor, and he was sassy as fuck, man. If you watch, like, he didn't suffer fools. If somebody said something to him, he would come back with something sass. I don't know if he could be like that over the top, but he definitely would have been different. I would say the caution maybe in your voice too is like, naturally, him and Bruce Willis have the same sort of low-key vibe. So I think the Chris Tucker kinetic, like, all over the top, like he's basically like a Bugs Bunny jumping up and down all over the place. That I think that sort of like that was needed.
Oh, speaking of Bugs Bunny, Gary Oldman played Zorg as a cross between the then presidential candidate Ross Perot and Bugs Bunny. When I read that, I was like, holy shit, that makes a lot of sense.
Wait, what? I did not know this at all. Now,
Yes.
did he tape his ears or something? Because his ears stuck out like Ross Perot. I noticed that. I remember his ears were kind of weird. But why the Bugs Bunny? I don't get the Bugs Bunny.
I can kind of see a little Bugs Bunny in it, just the way he talks. Like, I don't know.
I got those stoned because he stutters.
Yeah, I don't know. I could see a little bit of the Bugs Bunny in it.
It makes sense though. I would say Gary Oldman is he's a fantastic actor and he did his homework. I bet he would recognize the same thing as like this is a live action cartoon, so I need to be a cartoon character. But I think he probably should have chosen like an actual villainous character, like the Roadrunner. I don't know why Bugs Bunny. That's interesting.
Jean Reno, the star of Leon the Professor, was the original choice of Corbin Dallas. I'm gonna say no way. I like Jean Reno, but like to me, I look at Bruce Willis. I'm like, okay, he's got that like kind of relatability, also like kind of macho-ness, like kind of all-American blue-collar vibe.
He's got the wisecracks too. He's got the smart
wisecracks too.
I don't think Jean Reno. I don't think he has that. He's got more.
He's a good actor. I just don't think.
Yeah, no, but I mean, obviously, because Luc Besson worked with him before, I think it probably would have been a good movie. But again, I do like. It seems like a weird, out of place Bruce Willis movie. Was this the last good movie that he did? To be honest, I mean,
I would say probably.
What did he do after?
Unbreakable was 2000.
Oh, okay. I liked Unbreakable. I
actually liked Looper. I feel like Bruce Willis, man, he just does not. He phones it in now.
He needs a really good script and a really good director. Right. And he can't carry a movie on its own, I mean, honestly. And he can only do a small thing. I'm not a huge fan of Bruce Willis, but he's kind of like, for me, Tom Cruise. If you have a good director and he's cast in the right part, he can do that one thing he does. Like, Tom Cruise, he knows how to look intense and run fast. If you have him looking intense and running fast, you got a good movie. Mission Impossible. Go see it. In theaters now.
Elizabeth Berkley auditioned for the role of Lilo, but after the failure of Showgirls, studios were reluctant to hire her. Have you seen Showgirls?
Yeah, fuck that movie. It's not even. I know people like to do that movie as like a midnight movie, and like it's so bad it's good. It's so bad it's bad. I can't watch that fucking movie. I watched it first. I was like, this is dumb.
So I'm trying a new thing where like every 10 episodes I do like just like I don't know like. My choice, like a so bad it's good movie, and
okay.
I don't know. I'm kind of thinking I'm considering Showgirls for 20.
Go with Showgirls. There's got to be somebody.
We did Grease 2 for 10, so I don't know. I think Showgirls.
What did Angel do that one? Angel Sanchez?
Yeah, Angel, Molly, Jeff, and I.
Carrie too, or no, not Carrie?
No, Carrie. I did Heathers with.
God, those are some good movies. I don't know who in their right mind would be like Showgirls. Let's talk about Showgirls. I'm not gonna listen to that.
This guy.
I'm not gonna listen to that fucking.
You haven't listened to him anyway.
No, I zoom through them. I listen to snippets. I love listening to you guys. It's great.
So what you're saying is you don't. So you don't want to do the Showgirls?
I don't want to do Showgirls. Don't ask me. I have all kinds of other movies that I love that I know other people don't love, but not Showgirls.
Julia Roberts was considered for the role of Lilo. I think here's the thing. I think Mila Jovovich is so perfect. She's got that combination of like badass, sex appeal, and also like a vulnerability and a childlike wonder. I
think you nailed it.
Actress. I would say if you do cast Julia Roberts, I think I can buy the love story a little more just because she's closer to Bruce Willis in age. Because Bruce Willis is old enough to be like Mila Jovovich's father.
I think you nailed it in like the innocence and that sort of thing. The other thing is like this was like her first big movie, right?
So she had a bit part in Dazed and Confused. That was more of an ensemble. I think this was like her first big movie.
Yeah, this was her first big movie. There's also, because she's an alien, she has to be unrecognizable to the audience. She has to be alien herself to the audience.
Right.
Julia Roberts, I think, would have smirked too much and winked to the audience and that sort of thing. But having an unknown, I guess, virtually unknown actress playing this role, I think they did the right thing.
All right, so I got my last trivia tidbit. So I was talking about how I was complaining that Zorg dies and kind of exits the movie too soon. So there was in the
alternate ending.
Well, in the original, I don't think they ever filmed anything. But in the original draft of the script. So Zorg and Corbin actually had a show-off in the hotel evacuation. And
I like how you call it a show-off.
Or a showdown. A showdown, rather.
You show off. They just kind of walk down a runway wearing different
Oh, my God.
Things.
And then,
we're having a show-off.
And Ruby Rose is like, oh, come on.
Corbin's the decider. He like holds up cards. Uh-oh. Corbin gets a 10 out of 10.
Come here, man. No, man. That probably should have been the actual ending. But anyway, so...
An actual showdown.
Corbin beats up Zorg because if you remember, he actually worked for Zorg. Zorg was like the head of that corporation that ran the taxis. And remember, he gets that thing.
You know what? I honestly didn't remember, or may not even notice that. Sometimes details for a detail-oriented guy, I think that may have flew by me. I didn't know that.
So anyway, he like beats him up for like attacking Lilo and firing him, and also, so you know that special gun he had that like could do all those things, which is a really cool gun. I guess the ship blows up and the gun creates like a shield and he like falls down on the planet and lands on a glacier. Just bear with me now. And he's trying to call his secretary for help.
Yeah.
But then the phone on the gun runs out of battery, so he's stranded there. That was the ending.
Oh.
That was
I kind of love that.
I do too, and I think it would have just fit right in. Maybe they just did it for budgetary reasons. I don't know.
It echoes the previous scene where he has all these gadgets, but he can't save himself. It takes the priest to save him, and then his actual ending demise, he doesn't listen to the priest. His actual demise is his devices can't save him. If you go down this path, don't rely on anybody else because you are fucking over everybody else. That would have been a better ending. I'm in love with that, Bear. I'm so glad, and I didn't know that. That's actually, I mean, it's a lot more over the top. But again, if you go back to like Japanese RPGs and stuff, there's always like the bad guy never dies. You know, it's like if you kill him once, he actually goes into his ultimate form, his true form.
What could have been? All right, categories. What's the best scene in this movie?
Best scene in the movie, I would have to say the Ruby Rod introduction. I love that. And maybe that's kind of tongue-in-cheek, or I don't know, but if I could have maybe 2 or 3. Multipass is a small scene that I really like, and then the Diva Plava Laguna, the fight scene interspersed with that song, those are my top 3.
I think I'm going to have to roll with the taxi cab chase, and it's elevated by the cops who just want to sit there and eat McDonald's.
Right. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of like chase scenes and chase movies or anything like that, but you got to give props where I mean that's you got to respect that scene.
It's a really cool scene because he's like going down, he has to like dodge all these other cars. I mean, I thought it was a really cool scene. What's the worst scene?
I mentioned earlier the very first scene. I know that it also, and this is good storytelling, this is good like movie making, but the first scene before it gets to all the stuff, the first scene in the pyramids, I don't know. I think they could have cut that out, and it could have been an even shorter movie. I think the shorter the better with these like kind of popcorn movie, like genre movies. I don't think I think I could have gotten the story without that scene. I just fast forward it.
I'm tempted to.
Aziz, light! Aziz, light!
No, that's awesome. That's the best scene. No, I would say. I don't know. I'm kind of conflicted because I don't hate the Chris Tucker stuff, but I don't love it either. I might have to go with like. I might have to go with the introduction to Chris Tucker. I don't hate it.
To be honest, and to be very fair, even though I love him in this movie and he adds a lot to it, I think you probably could have cut out Chris Tucker completely.
Totally.
And the movie would have been great, and it may have even been more palatable, and people have been like, "Oh, I actually like this movie," because there's not a think about Star Wars without Jar Jar Binks, I guess.
Actually, no, audible. The freeze frame sex scene at the end. That's my least favorite scene.
I would totally hearing about
really cheesy.
Hearing about the new ending, I would totally swap out those, or at least have it as like a post-credit Easter egg. That I want Luc Besson to film that fucking scene.
Yeah, maybe I'll do like a special edition. Doubtful. Best quote, easy. Corbin. Every time Chris Tucker says Corbin. Corbin,
Dallas.
That's my best quote. Corbin, constantly.
I talk about my best quotes. I don't know why it's so. I guess it is so weird and over the top. Multipass. She knows it's a multipass. We're in love. I also like me and my friend I talked about earlier, Andrea. We would mimic Zorg and be like, I want those stones.
Not one, not two, not three, but 4 stones.
4 stones. I want those stones.
I do like when Bruce Willis is like, anyone else care to negotiate? Like when he
that's a classic.
That's kind of badass.
That's a classic badass American movie line. They may even ask the Bruce is like, what would you say here in this moment? And he'd be like, let me just roll film and I'll just say whatever I want.
I do like when he's in a taxi car. He's like, listen, lady, I only speak 2 languages, English and bad English.
Again, it's classic, like, dumb American. And I've already talked about the other one is negative. I am a meat popsicle.
Oh, man. This is some good quotes. Surprisingly quotable movie.
Yeah.
Best unintentional comedic moment? I don't know. I guess.
And he kind of has this reputation. I don't know if he does anymore or he changed or whatever, but Bruce Willis is one of those guys with an ego. I think of like Cop Out, the movie Cop Out, where like that was a notorious flop and everything, and he's kind of like an asshole. But I think some of the stuff, I think we would be surprised that like he did it and it was funny, but it wasn't scripted, or it was like he just happened to be funny. I can't think of anything that was like unintentionally funny though. I think everything was very intentionally like.
Yeah, this is one of those movies. I think that just because of the tone, I think everything that was funny was meant to be funny. So I'm gonna have to go with an NA here.
yeah, agreed.
Okay, best performance. I'll tell you, for me, Mila Jovovich. I think this is a tough role to pull off because I already mentioned that she had that combination of being a badass and having that sex appeal, that vulnerability, and everything. She also had to like learn like a completely like made up language, and And just, I don't know, having that childlike wonder and stuff, like, I don't know, it's a hard role to pull off. I think she did it very well. And I think it's her best performance. Everything else she's done, like we've discussed, has just stunk.
Yeah, I think it's so cool that they give, or I guess Luc Besson gives all these actors to do whatever the fuck they want. Like, I would be surprised if he ever said, like, hey, tone it down a little bit. I think he mostly was like, hey, I need you to go up. And hearing that about, like, Gary Oldman, how he hated it, and how and Chris Tucker, too, how they had problems with it, they all upped the ante. They all did a really good job, and especially hearing that, like, their resistance initially to, like, you know, either I don't like the script, I don't like the costume, they all rose to the occasion. So say Chris Tucker, like, he did a great job. Like, he really commits that part. Same thing with Zorg. I do say Bruce Willis, like, I think he has to be the glue. Again, he has to be, like, the entrance to the audience. He has to be, like, he has to be the straight man. So it's probably hard. He may have had to tone it down a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if Luc Besson said, hey, you can't be like the over-the-top character because there's all these other crazy little Looney Tunes running around here. Tone it down a little bit, like, you know, be solid sort of thing. And it's hard to be that, like, stoic action hero. So I'm making him, but I have to 100% agree with you. She did a lot more different kind of flavors with being a love interest and an alien and all that sort of stuff. I think I have to agree with you the most and go with Mia.
Yeah, to me, like, Bruce Willis, you can make a strong argument, but, like, he's playing Bruce Willis.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, yeah, it was just like, hey, Bruce, strap on this Jean-Paul and go at it.
All right, last category. What's the worst performance? I mean, for me,
I know what you're going to say. I know what you're going to fucking say.
But I didn't really hate. Honestly, I think everybody's all right in the movie. To me, I just have to go worst just by default.
I may have to go, like, who didn't play it as over the top as they could have, and I would probably go with maybe Ian Holm or maybe Zorg, because he was chewing the scenery, but I've seen other villains. I've probably even seen him. He actually did, I think, because he was also the villain in Leon the Professional, right?
Yeah, also, I watched Air Force One recently. He's the bad guy in that. He was like, I feel like Gary Oldman was like the go-to bad guy in the 90s.
Oh yeah. It was like, do you remember the Claymation Celebrity Deathmatch on MTV?
Yeah, I love that show.
I think there may have been a classic bad guy of the 90s. I think it was Gary Oldman versus, it may have been Alan Rickman, actually. I don't know, but there was like, Jeremy Irons was also another, like, classic bad guy. He had that, like, raspy voice. I'm the bad guy. I'm going to chew scenery. I'm going to take over the world. There's, like, two guys. I think they may have been in a celebrity deathmatch, but yeah, I don't know. I think he could have done more, maybe, which is weird to say. I don't know.
Let's rate this out of 5 stars, and
Get the fuck out of here.
Give your final thoughts.
Get the fuck out of here. You know what I'm going to say.
That's
a
5 out of 5 for you.
It's a 5 out of 5. I will say, so if you haven't seen it, watch it. I will say it's kind of a popcorn movie. It isn't something that will, like, change your life. It's breezy, I think. You know, it's sci-fi, but it's a fun kind of sci-fi where I wish Star Wars would recognize that it's this kind of movie. It's a very simple story that's gussied up with a lot of fun action and visuals and lines. Humor, I think, plays a lot of it. Like, Star Wars is trying to get away from that. It's trying to be, like, gritty and important. This movie isn't trying to be gritty and important. It's trying to be fun and just fucking fun. It is. The Fifth Element is fun. How about that? Can you write that in the fucking movie poster? The Fifth Element here is fun. So 5 out of 5. Watch the movie if you haven't. It'll probably get you laid as well.
Yeah, when Molly comes back from her trip, I'll be sure to put this on.
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna go 4 out of 5. I think it's a very solid movie.
Yeah.
I just think it oozes imagination and creativity. Great set, production design. I mean, a lot of interesting creature designs. The CG. I mean, I think for a movie that's over 20 years, I think the effects hold up pretty well. A lot of great practical effects. A lot of great performances. Chris Tucker. I don't know. I'm very. I don't know. Split on Chris Tucker. Like, I did laugh.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It was a little too much for me sometimes.
Yeah. I know.
I wish there was a little bit more action. I mean, the action we do get, it's pretty good. And I do wish that we kind of had more of, like, I don't know, like a climactic showdown or show off with Zorg.
I agree with all those. I still love the movie. I think it was a formative movie for me where I was like, there are other movies besides, Blade Runner, Star Wars. There's other sci-fi. You can have fun with the genre. It doesn't have to be high concept. It doesn't have to be like 2001 Space Odyssey. I can see that. And I can see you downgrading it for a 4 out of 5. I do start to wonder about people's fucking minds when they go to 3 out of 5 where they're like, it was a 52%. No, fuck you. You're a 52% person if you don't like this movie. Yeah, but no, I agree with all those criticisms, and I would want more. I was disappointed. I may go watch Valerian and the Fuckfest of Tomorrow or whatever, but
Fuckfest of Tomorrow.
But yeah, I think it was kind of one of those movies that was kind of like, because it was magic in a bottle. Like, everything came together. They got some big names. They all had really good performances. Just watch this movie, goddammit.
Yeah, also, it's worth noting, very funny movie, and it's really easy to see why this movie has the cult status that it does. So
I agree.
So that was The Fifth Element. Matt Cole, thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'll have to have you back on for like a Nicolas Cage movie or something.
I would love that. And mixed reception. I don't know which one would do. I actually heard somebody recently. Actually, I commented on a post. Somebody just recently watched Leaving Las Vegas, and I can see their criticisms, but I love that one. He was nominated for his only Oscar for that one. But yeah, they hated it. They were like, fuck this. They read the book. I haven't read the book, but I love the hell of that movie. It kind of changed my life as well, as far as like looking at alcoholism and tragedy and people who are just very determined to kill themselves. But yeah, let's talk about that one.
What you're saying is Leaving Las Vegas is exactly like The Fifth Element.
Yeah, just minus Chris Tucker. Yeah, you'll love it, Barrett. Have you seen Leaving Las Vegas?
No, I want to.
Oh,
it's got Elizabeth Shue in it, and I love Elizabeth Shue.
I love Elizabeth Shue's tits, and they are in that movie.
Oh, she's naked? All right, I'm watching.
Yeah, that was one on DVD when I was a kid, I guess a teenager or whatever. I was like, me like it. Yeah, and yeah, thank you for having me on, and I'm going to do some shameless plugs now. Listen to my other podcasts. I have a podcast network, so I have Performance Enhancing Films, I have How Embarrassing with Molly and Jeff, Molly Barrett's girlfriend, and I have the Sexperts, which comes on every week with my co-host and co-producer Brian Garrity. The Giant September Takeover, it's like more of like a talky podcast, but look up Go On Podcasts on Facebook, and it's kind of like a podcast network or ring. We don't have any fucking sponsors yet, but that's the idea. Look at Push Comedy Theater. Actually, me and Barrett, we met in Sketch 101 class, and I like this guy because I think he started quoting movies, or he did like his stupid Arnold Schwarzenegger impression, and I fell in love with them. And I love talking to people about movies because I love movies. So I love this podcast. I'm glad you're doing it with some of our good friends from Push Comedy Theater, and yeah, keep on, man. I'm a fan.
Yeah, well, check this guy's stuff out. It's pretty good. I think my voice just cracked a little bit. Come back. So that means it's time to go. So, all right, Matt, thanks again, buddy, and I will see you guys next week.
Bye-bye.